flying cars. They could become a reality in the near future. A California company just got U.S. government approval to carry out flights, tests that is, on its design. Edit's Tianshan has this.
These are the prototypes of a flying car manufactured by US-based Aleph Aeronautics that has received an approval by the US authorities to conduct its first test flight.
So first time something which is a traditional car, and on top of that an electric car, was allowed by US government through FAA, a vertical takeoff for the limited purposes. But that means that flying cars in the traditional sense are now recognized, at least by one government.
But strict limits would be imposed on the flight itself. A video released by the company shows the electric car taking off in a vertical direction and then flying over an obstacle and finally landing back on the road.
I want to be clear that nobody's going to fly over London anytime soon. That's not going to happen, right? It's very limited, very safe locations, and very limited purposes for which we can fly.
The company's activities will be limited to research and development until they get full certification from the FAA. If everything goes as planned, Aleph Aeronautics claimed their flying car could hit the market by late 2025 with a price tag of $300,000. In fact, they've recently announced having already received some 2,500 pre-orders for the vehicle. The so-called Model A is expected to have an aerial range of 177 kilometers, but it would first have to pass a long list of safety regulations.
We're trying to make it safer than any helicopter or airplane which is flying today. Safer. And in some cases, even in some cars on the ground.
Being trapped in a traffic jam on the road will still likely be our reality for the near future, but this is what some inventors in the Silicon Valley are envisioning in the longer run. It is Tianshan, CGTN, Los Angeles.
So, what does the world with these flying vehicles look like? William West Hopper joins us. He's an automotive journalist and President Emeritus of the Washington Automotive Press Association. I can't believe we're having this conversation. I have to say, despite what we just heard, I am highly skeptical, and it still sounds like the CEO was also had some great concerns about how this is going to work. But let's do this. How do the flying cars actually work?
Well, from what I'm seeing, they are much like gyrocopters that are out there right now, sort of have been thought of as experimental aircraft. As a matter of fact, at Oshkosh, the great air show out in Wisconsin last week, there were a number of gyrocopters. But it's not just the ALF that's out there from California. There's also PAL V from the Netherlands. And reality-wise, we heard about this in the 1960s from the Jetsons. George Jetson drove a flying car. He also had a Roomba robotic cleaning lady. So, the future is here.
So, okay, I'm far from an expert, but obviously I have great interest in this. I do think it's very cool, but we have to think about the reality of the situation. The VTOLs, the vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, which has been kind of a thing lately. There's a lot of people trying to make that into a commercial aircraft. Specifically, some airlines have already ordered it as well. So explain to us the difference between a flying car, a gyrocopter, and a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft.
Well, so let's start with VTOL. Vertical takeoff and landing. Military has been using that for years to get payloads up off the ground quickly, as opposed to running down a runway. So in reality, that would be what a flying car would need. It would need to be able to lift up, go up straight. What is the difference from the gyrocopters? Well, gyrocopters sort of are kind of small helicopters, so there'll be some growth there for that as well. You're not going to see what we think of as fixed wing aircraft, wide wings out there going down the road. And if they do have wings, they're going to be folded back when they're on the road and then out, for the lift.
So one thing that I've been researching is obviously you need a license to drive a car.
Right.
You need a commercial pilot's license to fly a in aircraft, but helicopters, you also need a different license as well. So there's different things here at play, and I'm trying to get to the regulation complexity that they are going to face. What does or what should that look like?
Well, I think that if anyone who has been driving recently since post-pandemic know that many people who have driver's licenses need to go back and learn how to drive again. Pilots, of course, they're very focused on what they do. I mean, their life and the life of their passengers is in their hands. So being a pilot is a lot different because instead of just traveling forward and backward, you have up and down with that. So there's going to be a lot. And I think the FAA is going to be working really hard on this. They're already looking at this, and we'll see. I think the next 5 years will tell us a lot more.
Why hasn't, I mean, I would think, and this might be a silly question, but we've had helicopters for many decades now in this country, and you would think that we would have helicopters everywhere shuttling you and I to and from work or wherever, whatever we're doing, and it's actually very, very limited. It's actually, if you try to fly a helicopter anywhere, it's extremely difficult. Why haven't we seen a basic technology like that take off? And I get flying cars are cool, but I feel like we haven't even explored the possibilities of the current technology we are supposed to be using.
Well, so the helicopter technology is certainly there, and it is out there. And for those of us who live here in Washington, D.C., which sort of is the land of helicopters because they're military helicopters going over all the time, I don't think you're going to go out to suburban America and find a bunch of helicopters landing at the local school to pick up the kids. I don't think that's going to happen. But you never can tell. So it's gonna. I think the next few years, as I said, 5 years. Let's see what happens. But I don't think you're going to have your grandmother's not going to be out there flying a helicopter or a flying car anytime soon.
Who is likely to be the first adopter of this technology? Let's take these flying cars, for example. I'm guessing they're going to be expensive. They're going to require special skills. And you mentioned this already, is they require some place to land. You don't want them to be in these crowded areas, and there's going to be a significant safety issue.
Well, who's going to be doing it? Well, certainly it'll be the entrepreneurs, the tech folks, and certainly the folks that can afford a $400,000 to $700,000 toy. I know that I can. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money to go out there and buy something. But there's the early adopters that came in with the Teslas, early adopters that participated when Segway came out. I mean, there are people out there that love that technology and love transportation and will try it and will do it, and they're the ones that will move it forward.
Yeah, we may need a few more airbags before I jump into that vehicle. Appreciate the conversation on this. Thank you very much.
Anytime. Thanks for asking.